Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Commodity TV and a new edition of our online interview series. Because of the actuality, we want to get an update from Century Lithium, and Bill Willoughby, the CEO, is here with us. Hey, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. Thanks for
Perfect.
having me on.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you very much, and thanks for taking the time. I know it was a little bit of short notice, but you made it happen. That is fantastic. Century Lithium, I'm a shareholder in the company, of course, and I think you are a great company, and lithium, despite the meltdown in the prices, still is something of absolutely importance for the electric future, for the electric vehicle future, the battery technology. So you guys now brought out, yeah, I think still a positive feasibility study, despite your share price, yeah, went significantly in the first trading day down. Today it's going up, which is great. But I think we should talk about this. So overall, the feasibility study, what is your, yeah, opinion to that? Is that fine?
Oh, I think it was a good study. We were very thorough in it. We spent 2 years approximately on working on the engineering behind it.
Hmm.
We have a pilot plant that was doing test work down south of the project, and that's been running continuously on campaigns for those 2 years. So a lot of work went into it, a lot of good engineering behind it.
Hmm.
And the feedback I've gotten from technical people is it was a good study.
Hmm.
You were
Okay.
talking about the price of lithium just a moment ago, and I think that drop on the first day the press release came out was in part due to that because we used a price which is a bit higher than the current price.
Hmm.
As you might know, last year the price of lithium went into from the $20,000, $30,000 a ton range over almost $80,000 a ton
Yeah.
for lithium carbonate, and
Yeah.
then it came right back down pretty suddenly and it dropped below $20,000 a ton.
Mm-hmm.
The price we used in our study was $24,000 a ton for lithium carbonate, a bit higher than market. So I think some of the reaction was behind that.
Hmm.
But if you look long term, this is definitely going to be a long term project. It's got a 40-year mine life behind it, plenty of resources, plenty of room for expansion.
Hmm.
That over the long term, if you look at the studies that are out there, the price is actually higher than what we used in the
Hmm.
base case for the feasibility study.
Yeah, absolutely. And funny enough, I was also looking up like Lithium America, and they used also 24,000 for their pricing. So I think you are, in that sense, really in the fine terms. What I could imagine is because in the first instant, I was also a little bit like, yeah, I wouldn't say shocked, but I thought, "Phew, that is a lot of money you have as capex. But I mean, it's a large operation, isn't it?
It is a large operation. You want to get something that'll make
Mm,
close to $1 billion a year in cash flow. You're probably talking $1 billion in capex in that range. And certainly, if you referenced Lithium Americas,
mhm,
they were $2 billion in their feasibility study for their first phase.
mhm.
And since that time, COVID has driven the price of materials and
Yeah.
labor up, and we're in a whole new regime in terms of
Mhm,
capex. I
mhm,
think anybody thinking that you're going to get in a project these days of that scale
mhm,
and it's going to be cheap is deceiving themselves. So it's a
mhm,
new reality we live with. We were innovative in our um, approach to the cash flow model of this. If
mhm,
you look at the capex expenditures, we have it broken down into an initial phase,
mhm,
which is the initial capital of 1.5 billion.
mhm,
That gets us our first footprint of the project, infrastructure built, and everything. And then there's two expansion phases, which are funded actually out of the cash flow model.
mhm,
So those expansions happen normally just the same you would have as sustaining capital in a cash flow
mhm,
model. They're paid for out of the project. So
mhm,
the real thing to look at there is what's that upfront capital.
mhm,
And we tried to get that number to where it's manageable, which we think
mhm.
it is.
Okay, super. I think also maybe the market, yeah, let's say reacted negatively because of those $1.5 billion initial capital. But as far as I understand, Inflation Reduction Act, then support from the Department of Energy. I've read through a lot of stuff here the last days, and I could imagine if I look again at Lithium America, I think they received over $2 billion from the DOE. I mean, why shouldn't you also receive, let's say, a low interest credit, stuff like this, right? I mean, you're
Well, we
also
certainly
in the
we
heart of
certainly have
America.
that firmly. Yeah, we have that firmly in mind, and we're going to
Mhm,
go through that application process and see we have the engineering behind it now to show that
Mhm,
we've got a project. So yeah,
mhm.
we're working that direction. A
Okay,
lot
super.
also with other directions too in terms of financing. So
Yeah, exactly. Because I could imagine maybe on the project side that there might be strategic partnership. I mean, you have so many gigafactories, car makers, battery makers surrounding you. Um, that might be also a great opportunity, right?
excellent. Yep. The United States definitely needs lithium going forward.
Hmm.
We want to be materials independent, at
Hmm.
least work in that direction.
Yeah.
Having a domestic source of lithium in Nevada is a great place for it. And
Hmm.
yes, there's downstream, the OEMs, the battery makers are, that's where we would look to
Hmm.
for, financing and
Yeah.
partnership. But there's also miners and other funds that could come into play. So.
Hmm. Okay, super. And that would be then, if you do it on a project level, would be not in that sense dilutive for the shareholder, right?
We've thinking along those lines. Yeah, we
Okay.
definitely want to protect our shareholders as much as possible.
Okay, I love to hear that. Fantastic. Super. Can you comment also a little bit on your OpEx? I think you are around the $8,200 level per ton, right? And yeah, can you comment a bit on that? Because you're using also a new but patented technology and direct lithium extraction. Um, do you see room there, let's say, to bring down the cost a little bit as you are growing then through phase two and phase three, the production? How will that work?
Well, you have to look at those operating costs again and see what the bottom line is,
Mhm,
because yeah, we are using an innovative patent pending process that we have that's based upon chloride leaching.
mhm,
So we have integral to the project a chloralkaline plant.
mhm,
Chloralkaline plant takes salt water, electrolyzes it, and makes hydrochloric acid and sodium hydroxide, the
mhm,
two reagents which we need for our project.
mhm,
But the sodium hydroxide, which we use for neutralization, we don't use it all. We only use about 50-60% of the sodium hydroxide that the
mhm,
chloralkaline plant produces. So we are definitely looking at a sales product for the surplus sodium hydroxide, which will bring down that operating cost. If you
mhm,
look again at those operating costs in the press release, we are actually below $2,000 or $3,000 a ton on the
mhm,
OPEX side
mhm,
by that sales credit from sodium hydroxide. And
mhm,
Nevada is a great place to be in business and for selling sodium hydroxide because of
mhm,
all the gold miners around. Gold miners need it to make cyanide. You have agriculture, you have industrial uses. It's used in
mhm,
water treatment. The U.S. imports about 500,000 tons a year on the West Coast coming through the
mhm,
ports of sodium hydroxide. So we have a good position there for being able to place that. So,
mhm. Okay, wow, super.
yep.
So that means after the sales of that sodium hydroxide, let's say you could go down to, let's say, roughly $3,000 a ton
Under, yeah.
production.
I
Yeah,
think we were looking under around two to 3,000.
yeah, it's like 2,766. It said I rounded it up by 10%,
Yep.
just
Good.
putting already inflation in again. And so with three
Always
thousand
there.
dollars, I mean, even with a market price of today, like 16 to 18,000, $19,000 for lithium carbonate, I would say this is an extreme fantastic margin, isn't it?
It's a good margin. Yep. Very
Yeah.
healthy, and it you need it to pay back that capital, but it's there. So,
That is for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what would be then your next immediate steps to make it all happen?
well, we're still in the process of nailing down the document behind the 43-101,
Hmm.
the feasibility. With that in hand, we're going to work with the federal government on an application for funding, look at some grants. But we're also continuing to work on the pilot plant. We have a couple more steps through the feasibility that we might change the process slightly and
Hmm.
test a couple different ores that are in the project. Uh, Continue that, but then dive deep into permitting. We've done a lot of baseline work already. We've
Hmm.
got some reports that have been submitted to the Bureau of Land Management and accepted. So we're working through that. And the next step is get our plan of operations together, start the NEPA process, and go into an EIS if it's required or EA. So
Hmm.
a lot to do.
Yeah, of course, of course. It's always a lot of work for such a large project, that's for sure.
Yep.
So let's put it a little bit into a timeline. You said also the EIA. We know that all environmental impact assessment that is super important. If you would say, okay, when do you think you could be ready for project finance, or let's say really to look at the project, even if it's with credit from the DOE, with a strategic partner, etc.? What do you think?
Well, the financing discussions and thoughts have been happening and they're ongoing.
Hmm.
So, nailing down something, if it's a DOE sort of loan, that's probably a 2-year process
Hmm.
just to get that in place.
Hmm.
But the permitting, we figure about 2 years
Hmm.
permitting. So we're looking at about 2026, 2027 to get the project really rolling.
Hmm. That means to start then construction 2027. Could that be
Yeah,
something? I know it's forward-looking statement for the regulators, but
yeah.
uh, just to get a time plan a little bit.
I would say to do detailed engineering and all the work 2027.
Hmm. Wow, super. Because on the other hand, I can imagine what we saw now in uranium, for example, what happened there with the Senate and the Congress. It looks to me like that the US is really, yeah, getting hard and really fast to try to be independent from, let's say, really from the outside. On the one hand, from China, on the other hand, uranium, let's say, from Russia, etc. So it looks to me like there is a big pot available which would help companies like you.
Yeah, we really are in a good position for the next uptick in the whole market.
Mhm,
When lithium prices go up, just the general economy is going up along with it.
mhm,
So, yeah,
mhm.
we're
Okay,
well
super.
positioned for that.
Yeah. You have now the pilot plant. You have shown that you have the, like, we call it, what is it called? Triple nine battery grade quality. That is fantastic. What would be then here also the next steps to show that, like, in a larger volume, in a larger scale? And how is it working with Koch Industries? Because that's also a technical partner, right?
Technical partner, yeah, they have a process called LiPro, which
Mhm,
is built up out of the Chemionics Line X process, which we have a
mhm,
license to and
mhm,
acquired. So we've been working with them on the pilot on the just one portion of it, the
mhm,
direct lithium extraction DLE area,
mhm,
which is really based a lot on filtration and ion exchange. So that's
mhm,
been working quite well. We've given them quite a bit of information, and it's been
mhm,
reciprocal. We've been getting information back and help
mhm,
speeding things up. We've increased the solution grades that are
mhm,
going through the product end of the direct lithium extraction. We at one point we were about 1.5 grams per liter of lithium, and we've now above 10, which is where we want to be when we go to that last step. You mentioned the quality, getting
mhm,
battery quality of lithium, getting above that 99.5% number, which people look for and call
mhm,
battery grade. Well, we're able to hit that now quite easily when we're above that quality of solution coming out of the
mhm,
pilot. So
mhm.
things are
Okay.
looking good there.
Okay, super. Also, because I just see it here, you have by now in the feasibility study a lithium recovery of 78%. Do you think there is also room for improvement?
Well, yeah, I think so. We're easily solubilizing, getting extractions that are running close to 90 into the solution. Where we experience losses is downstream of the leaching step. When
Hmm.
you go to get the water out of the tailings, for example, that's
Hmm.
one of our bigger areas of loss. That's why we
Hmm.
drop down into that sub 80% number, is
Hmm.
because you have that lithium in solution and the tailings, as hard as you squeeze them and try to dry them out, you still have a lot of moisture in there. So
Hmm.
that's one source. One benefit of doing this in a mill setting rather than doing it, say, a lot of people are applying direct lithium extraction to brine
Hmm.
deposits, where
Hmm.
you're pumping the salt water with lithium out into a pond or trying to run it through ion exchange to get the lithium. That's almost a one pass scenario where you bring your solution out of the ground, you run it through the ion exchange, and then boom, you've got your whatever you don't get is what you lose
Hmm.
right there.
Hmm.
In our case, we're able to recycle our solutions. We recycle from the DLE area, we recycle it coming out of the downstream part where we're making the lithium carbonate.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of retention of the lithium in the system, which then adds to the recovery. So
Hmm. Okay, great. Where do you see the biggest challenge by now for the project?
well, certainly you touched on the financing.
Yeah.
Big projects require a lot of money, and so
Hmm.
getting that in order,
Hmm.
that's our main one. Then we
Hmm.
do have to look and see, well, what's it going to take to get to that confidence level of commercialization? Are
Mhm.
we there with our pilot plant right now? Do we have to make the pilot plant a bit bigger to
Mhm.
satisfy some strategics? We'll
Mhm.
see.
Okay. Last question. What is cash in the bank? Meaning, do you have the breath to really go through until you can say, okay, here we go to the project finance?
Well, my wish list on projects is quite long, so if we went full tilt and did all the things I'd like, yeah, we'd like to have more money. But right now we're sitting on about, I think it's about 14 million, 15 million Canadian in the
Mhm.
bank, 10
Mhm.
million US. That's comfortable for at least the next 12 months. And
Okay,
we
super.
know how to squeeze a budget pretty good.
Very good. I like to hear that. Fantastic. Bill, thank you very much. It was a great update. I wish you well, of course. And I would say, yeah, please keep us posted as I think your project is really, really favorable. It really looks good despite that capex, but it is what it is. We saw the inflation in the last years, and it is a super large 40-year project. So this is quite normal, right?
Yep, it is. And we'll get
Super.
there. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you very
Appreciate your
much,
time.
Bill. Yeah,
All
ladies
right.
and gentlemen, that was Bill Willoughby, the CEO of Century Lithium, and you heard it over $1 billion, of course, for the first phase, and then you need a little bit more, of course, for phase 2 and 3. But I think this is really manageable. And please don't forget, this company is in the heart of the US, in Nevada, and they have a lot of big neighbors, a lot of car makers, battery companies, which really need their lithium. And also, as Bill alluded to, with the sodium, this is really a product which mining companies need really a lot to get out to produce cyanide and to leach out or get out their gold of the ore. So this is something what you have the market in front of your door for lithium, you have the market in front of your door for the sodium, and this is exactly what you want to see. And honestly, I have the feeling that here the DOE will be of great help, like they did already with Thacker Pass, but also with Lithium Americas. And money is there because the US want to be independent from the imports for battery metals, for uranium, etc. You name it. So I think Century Lithium on that share price basis, that is a fantastic buy. To be honest, I will do that tomorrow definitely. And yeah, have a look on Century Lithium. Thanks for watching us, and bye bye from Switzerland.